Peace and blessings, light and love. Today is Thursday, and we are on week 3 of our 7-week Kemetic Chakra healing course. And so it's time to do part 2 of the solar plexus chakra that we've been working on. In previous weeks, I did one video, but I felt it better to begin to chunk it because I had questions and it was just too much for a lot of people to sit down and do an entire video at one time. And so I thought if we worked on it together in pieces, it would be more effective and it would be easier for us to incorporate these things into our lives. So like I said, we are working on the solar plexus chakra. It deals with power and self-power, self-esteem, and it's blocked by guilt. It's blocked by fear. And we're going to go more into that now. So if you watched the previous video, we learned all about how having a blockage in the solar plexus chakra can affect us physically, which parts of our organs and our nerves and our tissues and our cells is affected by a blocked solar plexus chakra. Excuse me. And so if you haven't already seen part 1, I encourage you to find that and watch it. Because now we're going to pick up into how it manifests in our lives and how to recognize a blockage of a solar plexus chakra. So we have all faced, or we will face, people, situations, experiences, problems that will tell us about how strong we are or how weak we are. Those situations that we experience will express to us our own strengths and our own weaknesses. Self-understanding and acceptance and the relationship that we have with ourselves is the most critical spiritual challenge that we will ever face. I know that we do a lot of work on our elevation and spiritual ascension. But here at the solar plexus chakra, we really address how we feel about ourselves. And that is the most important, the most critical, the most crucial element in your spiritual growth and development. So here we have to be very honest with ourselves. When we dealt with the sacral chakra last week, we dealt with our sexuality and limitations and boundaries placed upon us by other people. And that's really easy to recognize. And it's really easy to say, you know what? I don't agree with that. I want to revolt from that. But here you have to be honest with how you feel about yourself. And so the work becomes a little more introspective, a little heavier for a lot of people. If we do not like ourselves, we will never make healthy decisions. Never. We all know someone who seems to constantly involve themselves with relationships that aren't the best for them. Maybe they're physically abusive. Maybe they're mentally or emotionally abusive. Maybe we know people who beat themselves up. Maybe they are very critical on themselves, or they use food as a crutch, or they use alcohol as a crutch because there's something that they don't like about themselves. And because when you don't like yourself, you will never make healthy decisions. Now, I'm not saying that if you drink, you don't like yourself, or, if you're a foodie, that you don't like yourself. I'm saying that when you use those things as a crutch, it becomes a problem, and it's indicative of a low self-esteem. Okay, now there's a difference between doing something as an addiction, as an abusive power, and doing something as a ritual of pleasure. Okay, so we'll talk more about that later on. So anyway, back to my spiel here. The solar plexus chakra not only deals with how we feel on the inside, But it also deals with how we feel about the way we look on the outside. And that's why we have to become honest with ourselves. The solar plexus chakra deals with the physical body. Are we physically strong or are we physically weak? Are we beautiful? Are we ugly? Are we too fat or too skinny? Are we too tall or too short? These are all the perceptions that we have adopted from our tribes, from our families, from our communities, from our peers. But all of those labels are illusions. They are all illusions because in the spiritual realm, labels do not exist. They simply don't exist. So we have to teach ourselves not to buy into the labels that have been given us by other people. And that's when you begin to self-define. So each time we choose to operate from an internal spiritual perspective, we diminish the power of other people. So when you choose to, excuse me, let me drink some water. Excuse me, guys. All right, so when we choose to operate from an internal perspective where labels don't exist, we take the power away from other people and the limiting beliefs that other people have placed upon us. And you completely take your life into your own hands. Your life, there used to be a quote. I'm trying to recall what the quote was. Anyway, you are completely accountable for your life. Regardless of what other people have said or done or what type of labels or limiting beliefs they've given you, this is where you say, nope, I define who I am and I become comfortable with who I am here at the solar plexus chakra level. So let me ask you this. Sorry guys. There we go. So let me ask you this. What does your spirit need to be free? Think about that. What does your spirit need to be free? Do you need to unplug from negative people? Do you need to unplug from negative situations? Do you need to unplug from negative thoughts? What does your spirit need to be free? I mean, really ask yourself that question. Figure out the answer to that question and then do it. It's that simple. Don't ask for permission from anybody. Don't talk to your parents to ask them what they think or what your best friend thinks. You ask yourself, what does your spirit need to be free? And then do it. And then you need to unplug from the things that no longer serve. Unplug from the things that no longer serve you, because that is the key to your liberation and that is the key to healing. Unplug. See, we have been conditioned to think that healing ourselves, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally, takes a long time. We have been miseducated. But the very fact that you have bought into that idea is what gives it validity. The very fact that you have bought into that construct that in order to heal yourself, it takes a long time is what gives it validity. Believing something is what makes it true. Let me repeat that again. Believing something is what makes it true because you operate from your own personal truth. So by choosing to believe something, we breathe our breath into that belief, giving that belief permission to exist. We give ideas permission to exist by believing in it. So by releasing the permission you have given to things, you can spontaneously heal. I don't care what it is, mentally, physically, or spiritually. And a lot of times people think, oh, I have to go to therapy for years to get over what happened to me. That's not true. People think, oh, I have cancer in my body. It's going to take radiation and years and months to heal. That's not true. There are countless numbers of stories where people spontaneously heal. And I'm talking about from cancer, from HIV, from all types of diseases, from mental abuse, from physical abuse. You can spontaneously heal if you give that belief permission to exist. It's that easy. For most of us, it does take work to release the permissions, because sometimes that means that we have to release a relationship. I mean, the way we have always known the relationship to exist, with our mothers, with our best friends, with our husbands, with whoever or with whatever. When we release the permissions, things will change. Now, releasing the permissions doesn't mean that the relationships have to end, and that's a fear. A lot of people think, well, if I really release the permission that my mother has on me, that's going to destroy our relationship. That's not true. But it does mean that the relationships we have always known will change. So you have to be prepared to recreate, rebuild a new relationship that is not based in the permissions that you have given your old relationship to reside in. The solar plexus chakra is where, it's where we really begin to hone our intuitions. Now, there are many different definitions of intuition, and you need to find one that suits you, to find what that means for you. But intuition can easily be defined as energy data. Energy data. Data that cannot be seen, like emotional data, psychological data, and spiritual data. So the next time you make a gut decision, you can explain it. You always say, oh, I can't explain how I knew, I just knew. Now you can explain how you know. Say, I made this decision using energy data. My spirit provided information to me. My mind provided information to me. My emotions provided the data to me that I needed to make this decision. But intuition is born of a high self-esteem. As you begin to mature in your spiritual self-esteem, you will probably go through 4 stages, 4 different stages. These 4 stages usually apply to a bunch of situations, not just spiritual self-esteem. But the 4 stages of spiritual self-esteem include revolution, involution, ego-lucian, and evolution. Now, ego-lucian is a word that I made up. Now, that whole concept of the 4 stages, I borrowed from a psychologist named Carolyn somebody. But the ego-lucian was not hers. I kind of made that up. So in stage 1, which is revolution, we begin to remove ourselves from groupthink. We begin to realize that we don't think the same way as our loved ones do or as our peers do. We find that our research has offered us a new set of facts that speak to us on a soul level that we can no longer deny. There's something that's been calling to you. Maybe I've been hearing about this chakra thing for so long and you never really dealt with it. Now you begin to deal with it because it's speaking to you and you can no longer deny that it's speaking to you. Maybe it doesn't feel right to be in the church that you were raised in, as was the case for me. You reach a point where you can no longer deny that. You can no longer go to church and feel comfortable because it's not speaking to you anymore. So we begin to find our own voice in this revolution stage. And we start having these mini revolutions. They're very small. We start to say, I'm not going to church today. Or, no, I'm not going to participate in this family drama that's been going on for so long. Or whatever it is. It's just little small revolutions that begin to pop up and you revolt against things. Nothing major, just small. In stage 2, which is called involution, We turn inward and we ask ourselves, what do we believe? We go on a serious campaign looking for answers and exposing ourselves to new things, trying out new places. I call this stage spiritually chaotic because, you kind of all over the place because you're trying a bunch of different things to figure out, where do I fit in? What speaks to me best? I went through studying all different types of African spirituality. I went through Buddhism. I went through all kinds of stuff. Islam, Sufism. There's so many of them, to find out what speaks to me the most. And I found that Kemetic spirituality was the one that kept calling me. Like if I was doing research, that would be the one I leaned to. Or if something popped up in my life that talked about Egypt or Kemet, I was gravitated towards it. And so you'll find where you belong, but you're going to be all over the place for a while. And that is necessary for your spiritual growth, because you'll find that you're going to pull from everywhere. Everything you've been exposed to is going to build the platform for who you're becoming. So that spiritual chaos is necessary. So don't be hard on yourself. Don't get frustrated with yourself. Enjoy the ride. That spiritual chaos is divine order. It is there where you begin to pay close attention to your intuition. Okay. And then stage 3, which is ego-lucian. I made that up. I can make up words if I want to. So ego-lucian is just like it sounds, when you become very egocentric. Ego-lucian is annoying. It's very annoying to other people, but it is critical in your enlightenment and your spiritual growth. It is here in ego-lucian we begin to voice loudly and repeatedly who we are and how we feel. And in that, we oftentimes discount the beliefs of others, which is annoying. But it is also here where we begin to perhaps dress differently. We wear our hair differently. We accessorize differently. We begin to align our outer appearance with our inner representative. We play dress up with our spirit. What would our spirit look like? It is here where we say, let me show you who I am. So that ego is necessary because it gives us the strength to recreate ourselves and the strength to defend ourselves against groupthink, because other people are going to challenge you about why you're not doing what you used to do, why you're not the person you used to be. And you're also going to, in this ego-lucian stage, challenge other people. And so it can become annoying to other people, but that's cool. This journey you're on is for you. It's not for them. And it is necessary in your spiritual self-esteem journey. Okay, so stage 4 is the last stage, and it is evolution. Evolution is the best. Evolution is where we evolve to the person our spirit has dictated to us. Here you become comfortable with who you are, and you maintain who you are without being egocentric, without being aggressive. You become comfortable sharing spaces with people who don't view life the way you do, and you aren't judgmental because they don't share your views. So it's here where, for me, for example, I can go to church with my mother now, and it doesn't bother me. I'm not bothered by what they're saying or what they're teaching or what contradicts what I believe to be true. I'm comfortable in that space, and I'm not arguing. I'm not judgmental. I can exist in that space and be who I am and share that space with my mother, who wants me to go to church. And I can do that for her without compromising who I am or what I believe in. It's in that evolution stage where that happens. That's a beautiful place. That's where you want to get to. And once you get to that place, you can then begin to ascend higher in your spirituality, because your spiritual self-esteem is solid. It's strong. You're good. You're good with who you are, and you don't have to challenge anybody else for who they are, and you don't respond to challenges about who you are. You're just cool with it. Okay? So the third chakra, the solar plexus chakra, is where we begin to spiritually travel. We begin to spiritually travel to expose ourselves to information and energy data that feels right to our inner voice. I call it our God voice, our inner voice. It's the process of becoming comfortable in who you were designed to be, even if it's not the popular choice. You become purposeful. You begin to walk in your purpose. You begin to express in a very spiritual way your purpose, and not in an egocentric way who you are. So we are still working on our solar plexus chakra this week, so you should be wearing or burning lavender, bergamot, orange, rose, or sandalwood, because those are the aromas that activate the solar plexus chakra. You should be wearing any type of yellow stone, orbs like tiger's eye, pearl, citrine. Again, pearl I know is not a yellow stone. It can be, but it does activate the solar plexus chakra. You should be trying some yoga. You should be doing some periodic fasting. Dance fast. Put on some very fast music and dance to it, because that energy activates the solar plexus chakra. And then if you don't do any of those things, right, you have in your workbook journaling. You have journal prompts in your workbook. And writing is so therapeutic, because you begin to realize how you really feel, where you really are, and what you need to do to address it. So people who journal are some of the healthiest people around. So make sure you get that workbook that I emailed to you, find the writing prompts, and write. Okay, so next week, we're moving on up. We're going to be doing the heart chakra next week, which is going to be very interesting. So I will be uploading this immediately, and I hope you get started on it right away. Thanks for listening, sending light and love to each and every one of you, and peace and blessings, Queens.